So hello again, everyone. Lovely to see you all. I'm here with Rebecca Trujillo Vest from Pandion and Phyllis Sinclair, who's our guest. And I just wanted to give a little background on Pandion for anyone new here and aren't familiar with us. We are a 501c3 nonprofit platform, helping musicians gain more resources and education for free to help them grow their careers and break down the barriers between music professionals and experts in the industry and up and coming emerging artists. So we're working to bring people together, create a community online, and then we have in-person events as well that we host. And we run these workshops every week with a different mentor. And it's always so lovely meeting more people in the music industry and hearing everyone's stories and inspiration from everybody. So thank you, Phyllis, for being here today. Really excited to talk to you. And I just wanted to give a little background on Phyllis, and then Phyllis, you can fill in anything that I miss. But Phyllis Sinclair is Cree. So this month of November, we're calling it Grateful November, which is an expansion of Giving Tuesday. And we're trying to be very mindful this month and giving and grateful, and kind of shift the focus away from the white Western view of Thanksgiving during this time of year and highlight the Native lens. And hopefully that will be inspiring to people, and hopefully the workshops will be meaningful and help people be more mindful in years to come as well. So we're grateful and honored to have Phyllis here and help us run this first workshop of the month around this theme of songwriting and activism in music, which is we've seen so many times in history, and especially in the Indigenous American and Native scene. That's a huge theme of using song as a form of change making and activism. So very excited to hear from her how she's utilized that throughout her life. And so Phyllis's traditional name is Songkeeper Woman, which I'm going to butcher this, so please correct me, but it's Nikamona Kakanawenitak.
Very good.
Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay. And she was born in Manitoba, so in Canada, and is a member of the York Factory First Nation, a singer-songwriter, advocate, and teacher. And Phyllis finds ways to open pathways to renewal through meaningful stories and songs from the treasured corners of her culture. So if you'd want to give a little background more on yourself, Phyllis, that'd be great to start us off, and then you're welcome to take it away with the slideshow if you want to, that way.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm really honored and humbled to be asked to participate in this discussion because, as change makers, we really don't have any metrics to view whether we're making a change. That's a little bit of a challenge. But by being invited to speak here, I think that is an indicator for me that just perhaps, my music is beginning to resonate and take hold, and people are beginning to think, which is the goal that I set out for myself. So thank you for inviting me. And I see so many people here that I haven't seen for so long. I see Steve Seaton over there in Australia. Nice to see you there, Steve. And I see people from here in Alberta and people I haven't met. But thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm glad that you're here today. And I only hope that the words that I have to share with you, take what works and, leave the rest. But before I get going, I want to let you know that I speak from my own historical and personal background. And as usual, I ask Creator to help me today, that as we move forward, that we do so gently, lovingly as possible, so that we all feel accepted, valid, and important as we foray into the complex, challenging, and also gratifying world of change making, and in our case, change making through music. So this is my view, this is my perspective. I'll get into my personal journey, my impetus, my methodologies, perhaps, if we have time. later on throughout this presentation. But I thought it would be good to start off to talk about a change maker. Who are they? What makes them tick? So I put together a little PowerPoint presentation here, and I really hoping that it works.
Hope that the internet
Okay,
is with us today.
I
Yeah.
believe
Yep, I
that's
see
it
that.
there, is it? Nope, it's not. 1 second here. Oh, I can't get rid of that now. Oh, start screen sharing.
Oh, I can
I
see
don't know
your
if I get rid of
screen.
that page actually, so.
I can see your screen, Phyllis, so I think if you just click on the slideshow,
Okay,
it should
but I
work.
can't, oh, here's what we want right there. Okay,
Yeah.
how's that?
Yep, I can see
Okay,
that. Great.
all right. So I'll push play. There we go. Okay, so it has skipped away ahead of me on me. There. Okay, I think we're back to the beginning. So I tried to put together some sort of definition that I thought could help identify a change maker, at least something that I saw. So this is what I put together. I said a change maker is one who takes creative action to influence or affect a positive transformative change to improve an identified social problem by offering information with which to affect the will to shift. And as I pondered this, there were a couple of words that stuck out to me, and one was improve, and the other one was will. And I'm going to address those two words later as we go on. But I wanted to talk about, you know, the attributes of a change maker, the things that I thought make a person kind of put a person in the direction of being a change maker. And as I thought about this, I thought about Bob Marley. And so I thought what I would do this morning or today is to illustrate these attributes by looking at the life and work of Bob Marley, just very briefly. I'm not an expert on him by any means, but I do know of his work. And as I look at his lyrics, I see that it shows a lot of his character and a lot of his vision. So as we go through, I'm just going to read these lyrics here, and you can read them along with me. No woman, no cry. Because I remember when we used to sit in the government yard in Trenchtown, observing the hypocrites mingle with the good people we meet. Good friends we've had, good friends we've lost along the way. In this bright future, you can't forget your past, so dry your tears, I say. And I remember when we used to sit in the government yard in Trenchtown, and then Georgie would make the firelight, a log wood burning through the night. Then we would cook cornmeal porridge, of which I'll share with you. My feet is my only carriage, and so I've got to push on through. But while I'm gone, everything's going to be all right. Oh, little darling, don't shed no tears. No woman, no cry. You know, as I read this through this lyric, it told me a lot about who Bob Marley is, and it really spoke to me as I read through it. So here are what I believe are the attributes of a change maker. Change makers identify a real problem, not just a perceived problem. You know, if the problem isn't real or quantifiable, there would be, and there are many people running around pushing ideas that are not based on fact nor on an acceptable identified problem in society by society. So we have to ask, what is a quantifiable problem in our environment, in our society, that helps or that moves us to help? What is the problem that I see? You know, in the case of Bob Marley, you know, he saw a lot of disparity. There was mistreatment and a lot of assumptions, and of course that there was violence and racism and a number of different things that went on in Trenchtown. So I also I couldn't find a lot of statistics on what was going on there. I might have trouble reading this because I can't read the whole thing on the screen, but I'll try to read it. So anyway, in the case of Bob Marley, I searched for stats on the living conditions in Kingston, Jamaica in the early 50s and 60s, particularly in Trenchtown, which Bob Marley wrote about and where he and his mother moved to in about 1957. So stats weren't easy to find, but I did find this on Urban Studies research site, and I put the link there to it if you want it. So what it says is that housing developments in Trenchtown during the 1950s and 60s, popularly known as government yards, consisted of 1 or 2 story concrete buildings built around a common courtyard with communal cooking and bathing facilities and a standpipe for accessing potable water. Due to a shortage of state funding, no sewage system was initially set up for the community. As a result, there was improper disposal of household waste, including human refuse. So from this, I'm deducing that there were obvious and identifiable social problems, poverty, racism, violence. And this is in the environment that the young Bob Marley was exposed to. And I highly suspect that his experience seeing people being oppressed under these conditions gave him the impetus to speak out. We see that one of the problems that he identified was the violence, and we see this in the lyric, "No woman, no cry. Good friends we had, good friends we lost along the way." So I think that change makers really need to identify that there is in fact a problem, so that we're not just running around shooting our mouths off for nothing, for a lack of a better way to say it. So secondly, I believe that change makers possess a genuine compassion. This compassion is often precipitated by an experience or an event that triggered a deep emotional response based on what they saw, felt, touched, heard. And because of it, they were compelled to take action to either eliminate or improve a situation. And I believe that Bob Marley was compassionate. When he sees Georgie keeping the fire through the night, he decides to join him to make cornmeal porridge. You only do that if you identify or have a care and concern. So based on his experience there in Trenchtown, he made a decision to give his voice to an oppressed population. I think he felt the pain of his people, and that was his impetus. So thirdly, I believe that change makers have a vision. I took a look at other lyrics from Bob Marley, and I took a look in particular at One Love. And in this song, he gives his vision where he says, "One love." He says, "One love, one heart, let's get together and feel all right." That's what he was working towards. So I truly believe that as change makers, we have a vision for what we would like to accomplish at the end of our efforts. And then I found this from John Lennon, and I think this is his vision. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, no religion to. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Another musical change maker. Change makers have hope and offer hope. I think hope is important because if you didn't have hope, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. You wouldn't have any reason to try to make a change. If things are hopeless, you'd throw your hands up and say, forget it. There's no point in trying. The world is only going to see things one way. What am I going to do? I have nothing to offer. Who's going to listen to me anyway? But I think it's because we believe in hope, that we have hope, that we say to ourselves, yes, there is something that I can do. what gifts do I have that I can offer hope to the world? And I think that's important too. So not only do we as change makers have hope, but we also offer hope to people through our music. We let them know that there is a better way if we try. So once again, hope. John Lennon says, "You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one." I thought that was kind of cute, actually. Change makers are willing to persevere. This life as a change maker is not easy. You know, it often means having to stand alone. It often invites critics and criticisms. We can be called bleeding hearts. But we never quit, because actually it's a life of dedication and passion. So when you have something that you really believe in, how can you quit? That's how I feel anyway. You know, it's a lifelong decision to continue persevering in the face of, it's not even just doubt from the outside world. It's looking at your own self and questioning, am I doing the right thing? Am I reaching people? Am I doing the best that I can do? You know, constantly being aware of you know, the pitfalls and the challenges and things like that. But through it all, we're willing to persevere, because it's not easy. And sometimes our music can get pigeonholed, and it's not for every stage. And sometimes we get, you know, kind of left out from that. And I think we have to be willing to accept that, to know that there is a way for us to get our music out there. And it might not necessarily be the way that we think it will be. Sometimes we have to sort of forge our own path a little bit. And we have to be willing to trust the creator, the universe, life, that our music will go where it needs to be heard. And I think that's the important thing for me anyway, just to keep going. And don't judge my music by what's happening with other people. Judge my music by what I'm doing and the results that I see. That's a tough one, you know, to not judge yourself according to what's happening in the music industry. So change makers are willing to persevere. And Bob Marley also said, you know, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. I think, you know, I just added this one just a few minutes before this started, because I thought about this. I thought, you know, as a change maker, I need to be aware. I need to be aware of what's going on in my world. I don't need to be bogged down with it. I don't need to be searching it out all the time. I just need to be aware of what's going on so that I can look at it and say, okay, how can I frame the work that I'm doing in a way that it can get out there despite all the messages coming at me from different points of view and so on. So we really do need to be aware, and we also need to be self-aware. You know, I'm always checking my motives. Why am I writing this song? Why is it important to me? Am I just trying to promote something? Am I looking to promote myself? You know, and I think it's really important that we, you know, check in on ourselves from time to time, to know that we are truly working toward a better cause, that we're not just working to further our music or ourselves, which is very important too. But I think as change makers, I think we need to be self-aware. We need to be also aware of what's going around around us. And as I decided to use Bob Marley as sort of an example, you know, the line from Redemption Song, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And that is so true. You know, we need to be aware. We need to emancipate ourselves from our own mental slavery too. You know, just be aware. We have a purpose, definitely, you know, but be aware, you know, we can't we have to know that what we're doing is for the purpose of bettering society. So that's change makers are self-aware. So, well, there's one more. Let me see if I've got it here. If not, I'll go back. Persevere. Yeah. Let me see if I can go back here. I don't think I've got it here, but let me just see if I do. Okay, you can see it here. It's the last point on this PowerPoint here. I say that change makers are pollinators. And which brings me on to my next point, which is back to my definition. So you might wonder what I mean by pollinators. My definition, a change maker is one who takes creative action to influence or affect a positive transformative change to improve an identified social problem by offering information which will affect the will to shift. And I think that's important. To me, that's very important. So what do I have to say about that? It's our job as change makers, I feel, to provide an environment where people feel safe enough to be willing to consider. Because I'm not going to see dramatic change. I don't know if people are changing. But what I do know is what I can see, what is visible to me, is that people are willing to consider. Because in that willingness to consider, we have pollinated. We have given people something to think about, and we've sort of opened the door a little bit to discussion. So it's our job to provide an environment where people feel safe enough to be willing on their own to consider a new idea, a new way through a different lens. We may not see the results of our efforts, but we will see the willingness to consider through the questions that they ask, by coming to a concert, by sharing their stories, by saying, I'm going to tell my school about you. I think you'd be a good fit for this, These are the kind of indicators that tell us, oh, somebody's thinking, somebody wants to share. And I think if I went into a place and I just kind of thumped my music and didn't care sincerely for my audience, I don't think I would get that kind of a response. So in the work that I do, and my methodology is to find a way to have people feel safe enough to open their hearts to what it is I'm going to say and the songs that I'm going to sing. Definitely they can question them. They can come and ask me any question. And if they do, to me, that's an indicator that I've done some pollinating. So after saying all that, I think the word consider is also very important because, can we change somebody? I'm not so sure, but we can certainly make them consider something, I think. And I think in them considering an idea, it is, a seed that is planted for further thought down the road. So here I have my list of all the attributes that I felt were important to a change maker, that they identify a real problem, not just a perceived problem. The change makers possess a genuine compassion to help, to find a way to make things better, not just for themselves and for their cause, but for everybody, I feel. Change makers have a vision. What is it that I want to see at the end of my life or at the end of my work? We have hope. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what it is that we're doing. And we offer hope. I don't want people to leave my concerts or any of my presentations feeling, oh, what the heck are we going to do now? We're all doomed, you know. There's hope for the future, and I really believe there is, and I believe there is because there are good people in this world, and I sincerely believe there are good people in this world. Um, Change makers are willing to persevere, and like I say, it's a tough slog. I know I'm here to sort of share my methodologies and my journey, and I will tell you that I've been at this for, and I'll get into that in just a minute. I will share with you my story, but I have been at this for over 20 years, and throughout my 20 years, I have not been able to attract a record label. I have not been able to attract a manager or somebody who can help me promote my music. Well, it has been, everything that I have done has been just through my efforts, getting my own music out to the radio, to whatever, over the years, licking envelopes, staying up late, getting out to the post office and posting all these things, and it's been really a tough road. One thing that I'll add here about maybe I'll hit on that later, but I think that change makers also need champions. We also need somebody in our corner who believes in what we're doing and will support us in our hard times. Somebody that will, when you're crumpling up that piece of paper because you think it sucks and you throw it in the garbage, they pull it out and they say, you keep writing. You keep going with that. That's good stuff, and you go, okay, all right. Because it's hard. It's not easy. You need a champion, and you need to persevere. I think these are all really important. And you can ask me any questions that you want about this. I'm going to close this up now if I can, I hope. If I can. Stop share, I think is what you do here. This is all very new to
Great.
me. So
Thanks for that slideshow. That was beautiful.
So I do want to leave time for asking questions, but I just want to share with you a little bit about my story and what set me on my path for this. So I'll try to be brief about it because it can be very long. But I was raised in a little town in northern Manitoba, Churchill. Many of the Indigenous people that moved to that town were sort of displaced in a way. They had to leave York Factory because it was closing down. Many of my people were hunter trappers. And because York Factory closed down, they had to find other means of employment. And they heard that there was work in Churchill, so many of them moved to Churchill. This is where my grandmother moved to, and my grandmother, by the time she moved there, had lost her husband. She was a single parent, and she had about 6 children to raise. My mother being one of them. So in my town of Churchill, there were 2 distinct societies. One was Indigenous, one was non-Indigenous. And among the Indigenous people, there were the Cree, the Dene, and also the Inuit. And of course, on the non-Indigenous are people from all kinds of walks of life, from European backgrounds and so on. But the thing that I began to notice as a little girl in my community, my grandmother and our Indigenous community, we knew each other based on language. We understood each other based on the language that we spoke. So we had lots of things in common. There was a lot of things that we didn't understand about the other culture because their language was a little bit foreign. The words they used, we weren't quite sure how to interpret a lot of things. And I think a lot of things got lost in interpretation. But nonetheless, my grandmother was a hardworking woman. She was a traditional woman. We only had a little wood stove in our kitchen and a little oil heater in our living room, and that was in 40-degree weather in Churchill. And my grandmother made our parkas, she made our mukluk, she made our mitts. She worked hard, and I watched her character. She didn't speak an awful lot, but she did a lot. In my town, I began to see disparities. I began to see that there weren't too many people in my town that held the jobs and offices, like teachers, even working at the post office or working at the local store or even driving bus. Like our people were just not there. And then I noticed also in the schools that I didn't attend the school. I attended a church-run Anglican church school in Churchill, but that school burnt down, and the new school that was built was called the Duke of Marlborough School, which is named after John Marlborough, who was the first, I don't know, first something or other. I've got it in my notes. But anyway, our school was named after him. Many of the street names are Hearn, Selkirk, Henry, Thompson. And, you kind of look at this as a little girl and think, oh, okay. I didn't think an awful lot too deeply about it until I moved to Winnipeg in 1967. And what happened when we moved to Winnipeg in 1967 is that we were fish out of water. We didn't have our community. We didn't have much money. And my mother moved us in. The only housing that we could afford was in the inner city of Winnipeg. And even then we were fish out of water because my grandmother used to braid our hair, me and our sister, put us in little dresses to go off to school. And this was the inner city. And we got looked at very funny, with our little braids and so on. But then I began to notice that I would be walking home from school, and I'll be very honest here. It's just to tell you about my journey and why I chose this path. I would be met with comments like Indian, like it was a bad thing. And I would be called very bad names that I won't repeat here. And I would even be physically pushed down and attacked. And I couldn't understand it. I thought, why? Why is it bad for me to be Native? Like, what's going on? So time goes on. I'm on a bus. I'm taking the bus to the north end of Winnipeg from central Winnipeg. I get on the bus and it's rush hour, and the bus is crowded and there's not much room for me, so I kind of squeeze in behind the bus driver there. At the next stop, a number of other people got on. Now there's standing room only on the bus, and I'm squeezed in the corner. And a man from across the bus stood up, and he looked at me and he said, "Give up your seat. Don't you know our people gave our lives for you? Don't you know we served our country for you?" I was only in grade 6, and I was very embarrassed, and I wasn't sure what to do, what to say. But I remembered a couple of things. I remembered that my grandfather gave up his treaty status to serve in World War I, and in doing that, like I say, he had to give up his treaty status, which was difficult for the rest of his family later on. I remembered my Uncle Garnet, who served in the Korean War and was medaled because he went into a battlefield where there were a number of mines, and he saved, I think he pulled 6 people from the minefield. And later on, one of the people that he saved found him in the city of Winnipeg and thanked him. And when he passed away, there was the full military funeral for him. So, sitting on that bus, I thought, you don't know. Then my grandmother, I go to the store with my grandmother in the city, and this was 1971, 72, somewhere in there. And I remember my grandmother being chased out of stores. Why? She wasn't stealing, it's just, my grandmother was a very honest woman. And if she stole, I would have been honest with you and told you so. But that didn't happen. And I began to notice all these things, and I thought, this is not right. What is going on? What do I need to do? People don't know. They don't have enough information about us to make an informed decision, to make those kind of comments about us. And on it goes. I could tell you a lot more about that, but that was really some of the experiences that I had that led me to believe there needed to be a change. This sat with me for many years. I really didn't know what I could or should do about it, but I didn't harbor any bitterness. I knew that there was a way. But oh gosh, I can't remember how many years ago it was that I think it was back in 2002. I went to my cousin Hannah's funeral in the city of Winnipeg. My cousin Hannah was a quasi street person. She was poor. She didn't have much money. She didn't have a car. She lived in a squalid little apartment above an old rickety hotel on Selkirk Avenue. Any of you familiar with Winnipeg will understand that. I went to her funeral, and when I arrived, she was lying at the front. And there were so many people at her funeral, and there were people even standing out in the street. And I was kind of taken aback that so many people knew my cousin Hannah. And so sitting there, people got up to the microphone and started to tell stories about Hannah. And some of the stories that I heard deeply touched my heart for a woman who had nothing. One story was the city of Winnipeg was culling the goose population, and they were going to give the geese to the Aboriginal center so that they could distribute it. My cousin Hannah heard of this. She didn't have a vehicle. She had a bike. She went down to the Aboriginal center and she grabbed as many geese as she could, drove down the street. I don't know how she managed it, but she had geese on her, and she drove down the street to different people in the city that she knew that could use a goose. A street preacher got up and he talked about how he ran into Hannah one day, and he said, "Hi, Hannah, how are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, I'm fine, but never mind me. How are you?" Because she knew that his wife was stricken with cancer and that she wasn't doing very well. He also said that he always knew when she came to church, because there'd be all these prayer requests in the prayer box for somebody, and they would all be handwritten by Hannah. I went home that day determined that, the people needed to know about people like Hannah in my community so that they could see the human face of who we are. So that's what I set out to do when I wrote Hard Time Hannah. And as it turns out, I didn't even really do it for, I didn't think it would get anywhere, but to my surprise, it did. And that kind of was the start of my journey into songwriting. There's not very much time left. I see it's 20 minutes to 1 already. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I do have some challenges that we face. But I think I would like to leave it to you to ask me any questions that you might have of me regarding anything that I've said to you today. I know that most of you are here because you are passionate, you are compassionate, you do care. Many of you are songwriters and you're working to change something in your own communities. If there's something that I can offer you to help you on that journey, I certainly would be happy to do so. So shoot away.
Looks like Brad's got a question. Brad, I'm gonna unmute you and you can feel free to pop on. Let's see. Can't hear you yet. I think you might need to unmute still.
Oh, still can't hear.
Oh, still can't hear you, Brad. Let's see if we can try to. No, still nothing. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
But yes, Phyllis, what I was saying, certainly thank you for your story, your sharing and your stories. They're quite remarkable, and your service to social change and through music, which is fantastic. But here's my question. I'm not a change maker. I don't look at myself as a change maker, but I do write songs of change, and I write songs that have social impact, and which is fine. I enjoy it, and it kind of takes is kind of on the forefront of a lot of messages that I send out, but I do write ones that are specifically have change and these kind of impact in mind. So I play out here in Los Angeles. I do some shows, either single or with bands, but when I pull out one of those songs, it's a gig killer. It's a set killer. They don't want to hear that song. I've been advised by my fellow songs, don't play that song, Brad. And they're good songs, but people listen to it, and I hear the hush go down. The vibe goes into a different area, and it's hard to climb back.
Mhm.
And it can alienate a lot of people in an environment where we need to be inclusive and build a following and not put those things out right now. How would you speak to that, or these kind of dilemmas when my hit?
I understand that. I've been in those situations before. I think sensitivity is really important. Um, I ask my own self in a situation. I go to jams all the time with friends, and I'm invited to different multifunction kind of music things. And for myself, when I'm there, I step back from singing those kinds of songs, and in fact, I kind of feel like a fish out of water there too, because I'm forgetting any of the cover songs that I know. And here I am at a sing song or whatever, and what the heck am I going to sing? I step back from singing any of the songs that I've written that are hard hitting, for a song that I've written that everybody can relate to. That's just what I do. And if I am in a circumstance where it is like the one that you described, I try to find a way to set it up. I try to find a way to set it up so that people are ready to hear this. And you can and will find what that is for you. I find that in my shows, my setups are probably as equally as important to the song that I've written. So I think being sensitive, don't be afraid to sing those songs. Maybe find a way to set it up so that people are ready to hear it, and that you can hand it back gently. Does that answer your question?
I think you need to unmute it. Yeah,
Yes,
there we
I
go.
like that. I like that to set it
Oh,
up.
good.
I suppose that might be a good approach. It's challenging, and
It
it's
is.
because again, we're trying to build the following, and you can alienate a lot of people, and they're not their songs, whether it's about elections or coming together, or I don't want to get into all my repertoire, but it's just again, it's something that when you reach that lyrically, because musically it's all the same, but when you reach those topics lyrically, and you're singing them, it's a different environment. Something happens to the environment. But I like that
Mhm.
if you can set it up
Mhm.
and present it that way, that might be the bridge I might be looking for if I
Mhm.
want to feel those out. Yeah, so
I
thank
think
you for
it's really important that we find our best way. What is the best way for me to get my music across? Are the best places for me to get my message out? Um, those are questions that I ask myself. And of course, doing that, like I say, it can be a very alienating experience because we know that we don't always fit in the mainstream or kind of fun song kind of environments, because I can't pull out Ghost Bones in the middle of a sing song. So thank you for that.
right.
Anybody
Yeah,
else?
there's other questions. No, thank you. I see there's other people here, but thank you again for joining us. And thank
You're
Pandion for
welcome.
all their efforts
Thank
putting it
you.
together. All right.
Thanks, Brad. That was a great question. I'm sure other
Thank you.
people feel that too. It's nice to be able to feel like other people go through the same challenges with that kind of
Yeah,
thing too. And it's something we all have to figure out for ourselves, that who have songs and music that is impactful in that way. And yeah, you have to be aware of it and in a different way,
See,
I
it's
think.
interesting. It's interesting because I don't mind being that guy. I have to decide that stuff too. So.
Right. Well, good for you. I'm glad you've taken that path. Thanks. All right, I'm gonna unmute here. Looks like we've got another question. Ernie. It looks like you're still muted, Ernie. I think you need to.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, I can hear you.
Thanks, Jordan.
Great.
Thank you, Phyllis. I've enjoyed this very much. You and I have shared some time together over the years. The question I have is, how long into your music career, when you started out, did you decide to start working as a change maker? Was it at a period in your life where, as you explained in your story, you had gone through some different things in your life that you questioned, or were you always starting your songs when you started writing? Were you always doing this with the thought in the back of your mind that I would like to make changes?
Right. So you're asking then if Phyllis was always writing songs
Yeah.
as a change maker, essentially, or like lyrics that had that intention, or was there a point when that kind of changed?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Great question.
I think there was, I started out in earnest by writing Hard Time Hannah. So I think there was always that intent. But I don't always write songs exclusively that have a driving message. I will mix songs in that move me. Let me think here. I'm just going to take a look at my like I wrote a song called Fence Posts and Stones about a farmer, and why it is that he loves his farm and why he felt he couldn't leave. I wrote My Fishing Hole about a man who, similar thing, except he's a fisherman and he loves his fishing hole. So there are other songs that I write that, because aside from Ghost Bones, most of my albums have had a mix of both. And I think in that it gives people a choice, you want to be able to listen to songs, sure, about Encinitas, a little town that I visited in California, where I just spent the day on the beach and just wrote a song about that. So I do write about other things, but my main focus is writing about things that I feel I would like to address in a way that people would be willing to put down their guard and listen. Make sense?
I understand that, Phyllis. Again, I enjoy listening to your presentation.
Is there somebody else talking? Because I can't
Oh,
hear.
I think it's Ernie. It's quite quiet. Sorry, can
Okay.
you say that again, Ernie?
I've never been accused of being quiet. Thank you, Phyllis. I appreciate listening to you here this afternoon. Thank you. Have a good rest of the
Thank you. Thanks for your question, Ernie. That was great. Are there any other questions?
So what was the question?
Oh, he was just thanking you for that
Okay,
answer.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
I think as we move forward, I think be sensitive. What is the best way to get your music out there? What is the best way to get your mission or your whatever out there? Try to find yourself somebody who supports you, that gives you the encouragement that you need. Try not to focus on what other people are doing. Try to focus on your work. At the same time, it's hard, when you work so hard and other people are getting accolades and you go, you have to be willing to trust. You have to be willing to trust in the process and just work really hard and persevere and not give up. I think that giving up's not going to get us anywhere anyway. So it's best just to keep trying.
amazing.
We
piece of it.
have about, I think about 5 to 7 minutes left. Is that right,
Yeah,
Jordan?
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Joan was
Oh,
asking if,
Steve, I think has a question.
oh, great. Okay, and Joan just asked really quick, is Hard Time Hannah a song or a book that you were
It's a song.
Okay,
It's a
great, great,
song
great,
about, yeah, it's a song about my cousin Hannah and the work that she did on the streets of Winnipeg.
great. Love to listen to that one. Stephen had a question, is that right? Okay, I'll ask you to unmute and then you might be able to unmute yourself there. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, fellas. Good to catch up again. Just in terms of the message you're selling in songs, I think, and it's one reason why I've loved your music, and I think that you are probably an effective change agent, is that a lot of what you do is simply educate. You tell the stories, people learn. You don't tell them they have to change, they have to learn, they have to do this. And I think the effectiveness of the education and the story can lead to much more change. Maybe not as dramatic, maybe not as in your face, but I think that change is there. And probably it is a longer lasting change because of that.
Thank you for that, Steve. I really appreciate that. And I think that's one thing that I set out to do with my lyrics is not to tell people how to think, but just to present to you something. Usually it's through somebody or an event that happened to me. I'm just trying to think of one in particular. I'm writing on the next album, which I'm calling Kiam, which means let it be in the Cree language. I wrote a song called Where'd You Go, Joe? And, unless you were sitting at my show, you really wouldn't know who the song is really about. So it's a song that you could probably put on and just enjoy for what it is. But the song is about a man in my community who deeply touched me because he trusted life. And by showing people Joe, this Indigenous man in my community who was such a helper to our family, people can see the character of these people. You know, we're changing the image of what we believe to be Indigenous people. So thank you for that, Steve. Yeah, that's one thing that I truly do aspire to do in my writing, not to shove anything down anybody's throat, but just to offer something to consider.
That's so great. And that's true that
Yep.
stories in that way have always been the most, I think, in history are really the ways that you can touch people. And that's what it is. Like education is just a lot through stories and our history rather than trying to push something on someone and then people get defensive and that's not the best way oftentimes to open someone's mind.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good point. Really good point.
Right?
That's great.
Nobody
Thank you,
else?
Stephen, for that. Any other questions? I read something, Phyllis, you'd said, I think it was an interview, I can't remember which magazine, but you said, I want to share my songs. Music is healing, music is power, and the more good music we have, the better off the world will be. And I just really liked that, thought it was so concise and true. And it was especially right now because there's just so much violence and hate in the world right now. I think it's easy to be distracted by that and feel like doomsday about everything. So it's nice to kind of come back to that and just remember it is music is powerful and it has such a potential to change and to reach people on a different level and inspire people. So I really liked that and that hit me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
Thanks so much.
If anyone else has any questions or last comments.
Just want to say thank you, Phyllis, for joining us today because this is such important like connection, that you've shared your story and also gave us some tools how to show up with our music in our lives, and and be authentic to what our message in our music and our words. So thank you. That was really
Yes. I think if people see that you care genuinely, not just for your own community or whatever it is that you're writing about, if they see that you care about them, I think they will respond. I think we do need to be kind in our deliveries. We need to embrace people and show them that everybody matters. Just for the longest time, some people didn't. So we're just trying to change the way people think or perceive, in my case, Indigenous people.
right. Which in a sense represents all people, what you're doing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Right.
because the goal is to work forward together. That's what I believe. It's trying to find a way to move forward together. We talked about vision. I wrote a song called "The Sail," which is at the end of my album Ghost Bones, and I think that's my vision. You be the hammer, I'll be the nail. You be the water, I'll be the sail. Yeah, and that to me is moving forward together.
Love that.
That's really nice. Amazing. Thank you so much. This was such a great workshop, and I hope everybody got something out of it. I'm sure everybody did. And
great.
thank you, Phyllis, so much.
It's been
really
wonderful
means a
being
lot that
here.
you helped out.
Yeah, thank you for inviting
Thank
me.
you.
It means a
And
lot.
if you feel comfortable, maybe you can share your PDF file with us, and we can share it with the community for those who want to keep it from you, about with your message and your tools that you gave. I thought it was a great presentation.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I
if
can
you don't
do that. I
mind.
can email it to Jordan, and she can spread it out.
Great. Sounds perfect. Amazing. And then you're still okay to do the little Ask Me Anything. It's on our Facebook group, so I can send you a link. But if people have questions
Yes.
over the next couple of days, they could post it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be great. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So if anyone has any lingering questions, feel free to go onto our Facebook group. It's called the Creators Circle on Facebook. And you can join that. And thank you again. If anyone has any comments or would like to share with us your experience with these workshops, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at hello@pandionmusicfoundation.org. And we'll always love to hear from everybody from the community, and that helps us grow as well when we get more testimonials from people. So thank you for participating, and thank you again, Phyllis. Lovely.
Okay. Bye,
Great.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. See ya. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.